Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1077B, and today's date is September 16th, 2016, and the title of the episode is People Are Beginning to be Herded into Deradicalization Centers in Europe. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. Tomorrow, Saturday, I'll be uploading an interview with Bill Murphy. He is from GATA.org. If you are on the X22 Report email alert system, I'll email you. If you subscribe to YouTube, you should get an email from YouTube. If not, you can go to YouTube and type in X22 Report Spotlight. Should bring you to the video, or you can come over to the x22report.com site. All you have to do is scroll down a little bit. You look over to your right, you'll see the video there. Or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can view the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, in past reports, we talked about how the U.S. government central bankers have been spying on the people. They've been doing this for many, many years. Now, of course, many people don't care about this, but this is a violation of your Fourth Amendment. European countries have also been spying on their people. And all these false flags that we've seen across the globe with these terrorists, they were using those to create draconian laws, to take away rights from the people, to allow their spying apparatus to expand. And we talked about in previous reports how governments are putting certain people on different lists. There's a reason why they're spying on people, and there's many different agendas. One is to blackmail judges, government officials. The other is to find out who is a threat to their authority. This is why they're looking at email. This is why they're listening to conversations. They're looking for keywords, as we know. And they do this for a particular reason. They're not just doing it just to do it. If you've seen the movie V, this is a good representation of what I'm talking about. There was a van that roamed the streets where they were listening into every conversation. And when they picked up on certain key words, it would hone on that signal. They find out who it was. They go to that area. They pick up the people, and they put a black hood over them, and they take them away. Well, we're seeing the beginning stages of this. And it doesn't happen right away. They don't come and take you away with black hoods. They do it in a different way, and it slowly creeps up on the population. In France, as we know, there's terror everywhere. And we can see right now that the government of France, they announced its first official de-radicalization center, which will open at the end of the month in a town west of France. They didn't give specifics of where it is. It is being marketed as a place specifically for people who have been on the verge of carrying out extremist violence or thinking radical thoughts, anti-government thoughts, and things like that. They're also picking up those people who tried to travel abroad to join terrorist groups. Now, to the everyday person, this sounds great. Oh my God, yeah, we're going to stop these people. We don't want them to join terrorist groups. They're terrorists. But then we have to start thinking about this. It's a de-radicalization center. That's what they're calling it. For those people who are thinking about the opposite of what the government is putting out there, thinking about maybe we should do something about the government, and you start to think to yourself, wait, is this just for terrorists or is this for everyday people that don't agree with the policies of the government? And what we're seeing right now is that they're planning on opening more than one of these. Now, many people think, oh, they're going to bring these people and exterminate them. No. This is a central bank corporate agenda to get rid of those individuals that are a threat to people's authority. And these will become labor camps where they'll put people to work. Actually, this was done in World War II in Nazi Germany. those concentration camps, they began as labor camps where people actually worked. And it's like getting free labor for the corporations. And that's what we're seeing right now. And earlier this year, French Prime Minister Manuel Valls vowed to open a dozen or so anti-radicalization centers. Belgium opened its first de-radicalization center, modeled after the one in Montreal. Look what's happening right now. Now, of course, people are saying, no, this is good. It's a good thing. Well, it always sounds good in the beginning. But what happens is, it goes from those people who are terrorists, those people who don't agree with the government, those people who are just thinking about the opposite of what the government is telling them to do. Think about taxes, for instance. When it first came out and they said, listen, we're only going to tax the wealthy. Everyone said, oh, it's a good thing. See, they're only going to tax the very, very wealthy. We don't have to worry about it. Eventually, what happened? They taxed everybody. This is the same thing. In the beginning, they only go after a small group. And that group gets larger. They include more people. The group gets larger once again. They include more people. And before you know it, the people around you start to disappear. Where did they go? Well, someone says, they were thinking bad thoughts, anti-government thoughts. They could have been radicalized. Everyone goes, oh, all right, it's a good thing they took them away. And then they start to come after your family. And you start to realize, well, wait a minute. What is going on here? They're starting to come after people that I know and love. And this has happened before. This is nothing new. And we can see we're in the beginning stages of this. And this will grow. This will get larger. They will open more. They're already planning on opening more. This will also come to the United States. Because, as we can see, we've done it once before with the Japanese. The groups that are a threat to those who are in power, they will be removed into this de-radicalization center. Remember why the government is spying on everyone. They are making certain lists. They're putting people on. They already have lists. They have the no-fly list. They have many other lists that they have individuals on. So we can see that it started out in the beginning phases, and we're already at this point. And we can see right now, this is going to be rolled out throughout the private Western Central Bank countries because they're very nervous about what is about to happen. And what's about to happen is this entire system is going to come down. People are going to be nervous and afraid. They're going to point their fingers. Even though they're going to have a story that it was another country or group, there are going to be those individuals who say it had nothing to do with it. I'm one of them. Most likely, you people who are listening, you're going to be those people who are saying, no, it isn't that country. It's not that group. It's the central bank. It's the government. Well, what do you think is going to happen? They don't want us, around. They don't want people out on the internet talking about this. They don't want people spreading the word. Remove the central bank. Get rid of the government. No. They need to get rid of those individuals who are a threat to their authority. And we are in the beginning stages. Now, we understand that the United States has been provoking countries around the world. They need to start a war. That's it. That's what they want to do. And they've been really pushing hard on North Korea. Every time North Korea does something, maybe test a missile, if there's an earthquake, they blame it on a nuclear weapon. And we can see right now that North Korea, yes, they do test nuclear weapons. And the U.S. is continually provoking them to do more. Because they want them to do something to start a war. Now, they flew their B-1B bombers over the border of South Korea and North Korea, very close to North Korea, to try to provoke North Korea. And North Korea said, not really a big deal. So what? That doesn't scare us whatsoever. But I can see the propaganda is already out there. And coming out of the propaganda channels of the United States, they're trying to convince everyone that North Korea is saying that they're ready to launch an attack against the United States. Well, let's just think about this for a second. North Korea, who's just developing their nuclear weapons, who can just barely fit one onto a ballistic missile, where they really don't have that many, they're going to start a war with the United States and NATO. For what reason? Why are they going to attack the United States? Because the United States was provoking them? Because in a split second, if they do fire, what are they going to do? They're going to sail their ship over? Are they going to fly their planes over and drop troops? Or are they going to fire a nuclear weapon and hit one area of the United States? And then the United States retaliates with 30 of them. And North Korea does not exist anymore. So this makes no sense. This is propaganda to convince everyone that North Korea is about to do something. Now, of course, they're trying to make them do something. And most likely North Korea is going to do nothing, because they know what the outcome would be. So the United States then would have to create what's called a false flag. They'd have to create an incident where it looks like North Korea did something, but the U.S. actually set it up. And then they'll blame North Korea. Just like when Sony was hacked, that was really an inside disgruntled worker. But in a split second, they said, no, it was North Korea. Now, of course, as we know, you can't track down a cyber attack within a day or so, because they bounce it off many different servers. They mask where the attacks are coming from, and it is very, very difficult to track down. So whenever they come out and they tell you that it happened overnight, it's pure propaganda. And they use this type of propaganda because you have to remember, the legislation that was passed allows the United States to use propaganda on the American people. And that propaganda can come as news stories. It can come as false flags. If you noticed, since they passed this, I think this was 2011, where they introduced, or 2012, they introduced this. Have you noticed the amount of false flags has increased? The propaganda has increased because the U.S. government central bankers, they're allowed to do it now. It's not against the law. They're allowed to lie to the people and trick the people. Now, out in South Sudan, we see the refugee count is up to 1 million. Now, Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, they're all in the same boat. And if you notice, the pattern stands out. Wherever the United States government central banker goes and starts a war and has regime change and takes control of the country, because then there's a rebellion, which they call terrorists, who don't want the government, the U.S. government, in there, we always see refugees. Look at Syria. Why are there refugees coming out of Syria? Because it's the United States who wants regime change. They want Assad out. So they created a war. Why do we have refugees coming out of Libya? Same reason. Lebanon, same reason. Iraq, same reason. Sudan, Afghanistan, Somalia, Ukraine, it's all the same reason. The U.S. is the problem. And I'm not talking about the people of the United States. I'm talking about those that are in power, the central bank, the U.S. government. They're the problem. Now, out in Syria, we see the U.S. Air Force accidentally bombed their own rebels. They made a mistake. They hit their own rebels in the northern side of Aleppo. And it looks like they were trying to hit something else, but they messed up. We see that the U.S. is not fulfilling its promise to separate the moderate rebels and the terrorist groups, which we kind of knew this was happening. Even though the United States is saying they're going to be doing this, we see there are no signs of the Syrian rebels cutting ties with the Nusra Front or the rebranded Al-Qaeda terrorist group, because it's all part of the same system. They're all terrorists. They're paid mercenaries. We see now that the U.S. Special Forces, they're going to be joining up with the Turkish troops in Syria, and they're going to be cleaning out areas right now. So we talked about the United States using their special op teams inside of Syria to handle different missions, and we're starting to see this because they don't need the Islamic State anymore. They're hiding the data. They're getting rid of sensitive information. The Islamic State individuals are being transported out of the area. They're clearing the area for the buffer zone. And we can see already the U.S. Special Op teams, they're getting more involved in this area. But what's very interesting is that the U.S. Special Forces soldiers, well, they entered a town in northern Syria, and we can see right now the Free Syrian Army, some of the individuals there, well, they didn't want the U.S. forces there. They called them pigs, crusaders, infidels. They were screaming, "Down with America, get out, you pigs." They're coming to Syria to occupy it. And we can see right now the special op teams had to leave that area. It looks like the Free Syrian Army, they're a little upset with the deal the United States is making with Russia, because they were put into this position where they were going to take over Syria. Those individuals were going to be put into high positions. They were going to capture an entire country, and the whole thing is completely falling apart. And we can see that they're very angry about this. And what's very interesting is that the U.S. right now, they are flying their flag in northern Syrian towns, which indicates that they're showing the world that, yes, this is U.S. captured area. This is a safe area. And we can see right now, this is exactly what they're trying to do. They're creating these areas which are not going to be part of Syria. This has been the plan since the beginning. This is what the think tank thought up, and they're carrying through with the plan. We see the Islamic State, they're still using chemical weapons on the Syrian people. We see that they used it in a Syrian province of Aleppo, and people got injured, people had boils on their arms, and we can see right now the terrorist groups and the U.S. government central bankers, they don't care about the people of the country. They could care less about that. They want to get in there and remove Assad. They're still working on the same goal. And right now, the U.S. is covering up the opposition breaches of the Syrian ceasefire. Of course, Russia is out there saying, yes, we are seeing that the U.S. is trying to cover up all the violations. And Obama came out, and he is warning Russia that their military cooperation in Syria will not go forward unless humanitarian aid begins to reach Aleppo and other areas. Well, wait a minute. Russia and Syria, they control this area. The United States government central bankers, they don't control anything. They can't tell Russia and Syria what to do in this area. The U.S. government is on the losing side right now. And what's happening is that the Syrian armed forces, they have moved their military assets out of this area. They're creating a demilitarized area where they can bring in the aid. The opposition forces, the moderate rebels, the terrorists, guess what? They're causing the problem. They will not give up their area. And they're not pulling back whatsoever. Didn't we see this in Ukraine, where the southeastern people pulled back, but the Kiev forces moved forward, and they didn't abide by the ceasefire? And the rebel leaders say, we're not going to be giving up any land right now. We're not giving up our positions. We're staying where we are. Now, Russia has decided that they're going to be installing new cameras in the city of Aleppo in order to monitor compliance with the ceasefire. They're going to be using drones to surveil the area to make sure they understand what is going on, and they're going to use this footage to show the U.S. the problems. And this is going to be a huge problem. Now, Sergei Lavrov yesterday said that they're not keeping the ceasefire agreement a secret. They want it to go public. He wants the whole package to go public. It's the U.S. that's keeping it a secret. And we can see right now, Russia has the upper hand right now because they are using this as leverage, saying, listen, you will abide by the ceasefire or we will release this information. And this information is going to be damaging. And we can see right now that Lavrov, they are pushing the UN Security Council to accept the ceasefire package and to make it public to everyone. And we're going to have to watch that very carefully to see how that goes. We see Israel launched into orbit its 7th spy satellite, OFEC 11. They have OFEC 9 and 10. And this is a joint operation with the U.S. They pay for a lot of their surveillance and spy satellites. And these satellites, they have the ability to zoom in to objects just centimeters in size. And the clarity is crystal clear. It's in color. And this is why when the U.S. government central bankers show us satellite pictures that are black and white, fuzzy, we know this is fake, phony, and false. We know these satellites that are up in space, they can zoom in and we can see everything in color and we can see the detail of everything. And again, that's how you know it's continued propaganda, because as they continually show us black and white fuzzy satellite imagery, we know that's completely fake, phony, and false. Now, there's a think tank out there that is telling the EU right now to take a different direction. And they're saying instead of going after Russia and Iran to get rid of Assad, try to persuade them diplomatically. Talk to Russia. Make them see why they need to get rid of Assad. Bring them to your side. Will this work? We don't know. But right now we can see the EU might be taking this type of tactic. The United States government central bankers, they're not going to go down this route. They're going to use force. They're going to use tricks. They're going to use whatever they need to do to get their way, one way or another. Now, President Obama, he announced that he'll be extending the national emergency. This came into effect after the attacks of September 11th, 2001. This was brought into effect by President Bush. I think this was September 14th of 2001. And he announced a notice to Congress on Thursday saying that the crisis constituted by the grave acts of terrorism has not been resolved. And that is because they haven't completed their mission. Their mission was to go into all these Middle Eastern countries and finally end up in Iran and capture Iran. They needed Venezuela. They need Brazil. They thought they'd have regime change in Russia, China, North Korea. And we can see right now they're not done lying to the people because the system is crashing. The system cannot be repaired. They're losing the Middle East. And as they continually lose this entire area, the petrodollar is doomed. We have a crisis in Europe. The United States is already in a recession. We're heading into a depression. The crisis is growing in Europe. That is going to collapse. It will then have an effect on the United States, which will then cause the United States to collapse. This whole entire system is getting ready to come crashing down. They will not be able to stop it at one point. And this is why they are working so quickly to bring it down themselves. They want to control the narrative. They want to control what's happening. And they need the crisis. The system will collapse, but they're going to use it to their benefit. People are going to suffer. People are not going to be able to get food, supplies, but they're going to use this to take full control of the system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.